Let's get started. Yes, it's automatically set up to record. So where is now where'd my slideshow go?
I don't know, might have to reopen it.
Close. Okay, we've got attendees coming in. They can hear me. Should we can mute?
No, don't mute, because then they're walking into a silent room. Nobody likes walking into.
That's not awkward.
It's kind of like, looks like we're like whispering. So it's like one back.
So see, it's there. I just don't know why. We'll get there. We'll get there. Share screen. There it is. Boop. Share. All right, welcome. Yeah, it was just taking a second.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. So when I get to that view, now I can't see participants when I'm sharing screen. But you guys can see, no, because you guys aren't logged on either. Okay.
I can't see them either.
I know, so I can't see who's here. Okay, hold on. Hello, watch this. Hey, everybody. Torian Jones says hello.
We got one.
Okay. Awesome. Welcome. We're going to give everybody just a few minutes to pop in the room. In the meantime, you can meet your panelists there on the screen. Hopefully you've all had a chance to sort of check out their bios that we emailed to you. We've got a great group of people here today to speak with you. Oh, the chat is definitely
Excited?
The chat is excited. Everybody's saying hello. What's up? The Destin Marlins are here. Hello from Lomax.
Mark, will you moderate chat?
Once I get in, yes.
So,
shout out to Dawn and Lori. Sure do miss y'all.
yes. Okay, everybody's just saying hello. We've got, okay, so see, it says we have 14 attendees, but we know, I think we've got groups of teams that are probably joining us from the same device. We've got a couple hands raised. For those of you who've got your hand raised, if you have a particular question, do you mind just popping it into the chat real quick? Beverly Allen. Okay, we've got raised hands going away. What do we have in the chat? Nothing new. All right.
Lomax from Tampa. I have 7 kids with them.
Yay.
Washington State.
Washington State.
Washington State in the
Nice.
house.
Man, I love it up there.
Right?
It's so nice.
Freezing out there now, huh?
It's
okay,
cold
I'll
up
take it.
there.
No, it's almost November and it was 85 today. So I'll take it. I'll take freezing today.
I'm just glad the summer is cold.
Yeah, they just had the bomb cyclone out there too.
Yes. Okay. So we've still got people logging in, and we just want to give just another minute or so to allow people to log in, and then we'll get going. You'll notice on the slide here, in addition to your awesome panelists, we're just asking that you guys please utilize the Q&A feature to submit questions. Now, we did ask for pre-submitted questions, and we got a handful of those. We got a flurry of them this morning, as a matter of fact. So we are going to, since those questions were pre-submitted, we're going to try to work through those questions first. And then we'll move to the questions that are in the Q&A section of Zoom there. You can also upvote questions. If somebody asks a question and you're like, I was going to ask that same thing, or something very similar, you can upvote in the Q&A feature. And that'll let us know that that's a popular question, and we can make sure to get to that one as soon as we can. But we also want you to know that if we don't get to your questions today, because there's a very real possibility that this hour is going to go by super fast and we're not going to get to all of them. You can email your questions to us. We're also going to capture the questions that are coming in through the Q&A. We're going to capture those. If you think of any that you didn't get a chance to ask, email them to us at first@doolittleinstitute.org. And we will put that list together. We'll forward it on to our panelists for them to answer, and then we'll get those answers back out to you. So not to worry if we don't get to your question today. The session is being recorded, and absolutely we can share it with participants. So thank you all for being here. What time are we sitting at now? Okay, we're sitting at 4:07, and like I said, that hour is going to go by fast. So we would like to welcome you to our 2021 Ask the Expert panel. We here at the Doolittle Institute, we're the program delivery partners for First Lake League Challenge in Northwest Florida, but we're happy to have teams from all across the country. We did put it out, the sessions on FLL Share and Learn. We're happy to share that for us on their Facebook page as well. So we could have teams from across the globe. We're not really sure because I didn't drill into, to the team numbers or anything, but thank you all for being here. My name is Jennifer Keel, one member of the STEM outreach team here. To my right, maybe your left, is Patrick Morehouse. Off camera over there, we've got Lauren Bierman. We're all part of the team here at Doolittle Institute that helps to bring awesome first events to Northwest Florida, and we work with partners across the state to do the same across the state of Florida.
No one answering them in the chat.
And Lauren is answering you in the chat, so that's who you're speaking with there. To my right here, we've got our moderator for the day. This is Mr. Brian Mitchell. He is the STEM pipeline coordinator for Eglin Air Force Base and for the Air Force Research Lab Munitions Directorate. He does a lot of amazing stuff. He's going to speak here in just a second. But we also want to really, really thank our panelists here today, because without the panelists, the experts here today, we wouldn't be able to make this happen. So I shared out their bios with you so you could kind of get to know them, so we could save some time on the round the room introductions. But I think we've got everybody here minus Mr. Gassaway. So he is driving. He's on a business trip today too. He said he was going to do his very best to pop in. So when he pops in, we'll let you know if he's able to pop in. But thank you to the panelists. And I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Mitchell here to kick things off for us.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks, Jen. I appreciate that. Good afternoon, everybody. As Jen mentioned, I'm the pipeline coordinator for the Air Force Research Lab and Eglin Air Force Base. So I'm just thrilled to be here. First Robotics is one of those programs that is near and dear to me. I unfortunately didn't know a whole lot about it until I started working in the STEM world. And once I figured out what FIRST was all about, I'm just always incredibly excited about the challenges, about watching the competitions, about helping teams understand how to get through their season. I've been lucky enough to do a little bit of judging and a little bit of coaching and over the years, and it's just absolutely fantastic. And I'm honored to be here today. So the way that we're going to work this is we've got some of the questions that you submitted earlier today. I'm going to pose those to one of the panelists, several of the panelists, or all of the panelists, and we've kind of looked through the questions to understand how we're going to do that. And then we're also going to take your questions as they come in live, right? So they're going to feed those to me, and we'll get through those as we as best we can. I will tell you that we've got a little less than an hour now to get through these, and we will probably not get to everybody's question. However, we are going to capture them as best that we can, get them out to the panelists, and then allow them to kind of give us their thoughts, ideas, and opinions on those, and then get those back to the teams. So if you don't hear your question asked, don't let your heart be troubled. We'll still make sure that the panelists get to your question and that we get that answer to you so that you can still use it. Because I'm looking through the questions. These are good questions. These are really well thought out questions. You all did a fantastic job with coming up with these. I can really see that you're digging into trying to understand the challenge and how you're going to tackle that this year. So I'm going to get started with the first question. Alex, this one's actually going to you. And this is one of those questions that to me is kind of it's going to dig at the heart of perception versus reality. So in your opinion, do you think that package theft is a big problem, specifically after the package is delivered on a porch or at a front door before somebody has the opportunity to come and grab their package?
Unfortunately, I would say it is a problem, a big problem. And that's why it kind of blends into some of the other questions where you're finding containers being set up in different locations. Our stores, for example, at the UPS store, a lot of people get private mailboxes because we can receive their packages. They're safe. And then when they're off from work, out of school, whatever the case may be, at their convenience, they come in knowing that they can pick up those items safely. But for industry, it's a very big problem. And it costs, I don't have a number, I can't monetize it, but there is a large amount of money that industry pays because people, as jokingly say, do some five-finger discounting. So it is a big issue.
Thank you. So that, so you touched on, some of the things that, what you do in your store there to help customers secure packages. And so then I'm gonna throw the next question to Michael. From a city manager perspective, the next question is, would a community-based package locker system be feasible to help stop package theft? And so I think that's kind of a unique perspective on the public versus a private solution to that problem.
That's actually a good idea, and it's definitely something we would love to look into and work with, the vendors like UPS and FedEx and the others to figure out. Is it something that the city would host? Probably not, but if we could work with your delivery vendors, I think that's definitely something that could be a possibility.
So kind of a follow-up to that, and Alex, I'll go back to you on that one. Do you know of, or do you think it's feasible then for multiple different shipping companies to kind of work together to solve that problem? Have you seen that? Is there any discussion about that? Do you think that there's the potential that we might see something like that in the future?
Are you asking me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I would say it sounds like a great idea, but in all honesty, I don't think it would work. First of all, companies, the UPS, the FedEx, the post office, all of these different entities have already established relationships with businesses. Again, UPS store, we have a program called Access Point. So the idea is to not have packages sitting on a doorstep. Drivers have the leeway. If they do not feel that it's safe to leave something, they're not going to leave it there, and now it becomes a theft, a lost package that somebody has to run the ground, and ultimately somebody has to pay for. But the different delivery services are already working with businesses. I get emails periodically with Amazon. There is a facility in Fort Walton Beach that they're set up as a package locker. There's other places. So I don't believe this is a government item to be solved. I think industry is already well ahead in trying to find ways to get the items into the consumer's hands.
So you mentioned, Alex, you mentioned cost as it relates to packages lost, in transit versus packages that are lost after delivery. And so there's a question here that is asking, where does the cost come in? Who's responsible for the cost of a package that's lost, en route, in transit versus a package that's lost after it's already been delivered?
Well, there are contracts that the major carriers have. For example, Target, it has the shore post. So UPS gets it to the post office delivers it to the last mile. If something were to happen, then the contract spells out that the vendor will just send another package. It's not worth going through the hassle of trying to do a claim and such. So they, in essence, write that off to, depending on the value involved. But ultimately, as consumers, the cost is spread back to us, because when these businesses have losses, they're going to try to do what they can to mitigate those losses. But if ultimately there is somebody that's going to pick up the bill at the end of the day, it's going to be the consumer, because that's where your prices are generated in there. So I think that there's a lot of efforts to develop packaging that is protective of the item to minimize the claim situation. For us at the UPS store, we have standards that we have to abide by. If something is damaged, there is a determination. It could be the driver goes out and picks up those items, and they're looked at to see how it was packaged, the types of materials involved, what is the strength of the packaging that was used. If it fails to meet the standards of the carrier, then the carrier has the right to refuse to pay. So it's very important that the appropriate materials are being used. It's also appropriate that the driver exhibits discretion. If it just seems like it's not going to make it, then there are other options that they can do to try to minimize the loss and keep costs down.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. So that brings up an interesting kind of segue into the next question, right? So Alex, you talked about, really kind of how, beyond they're driving the trucks, they're delivering the packages, but there's follow-up and those kinds of things that the drivers are responsible for. So I'm going to toss the next question over to you, Chris, just to kind of give us your thoughts on whether you think drones could effectively replace drivers at scale.
Not right now. The way that it works right now, especially, I think the biggest hurdle to any sort of innovation in the field right now is going to be the necessary airspace restrictions. So you have planes flying everywhere and every which way, and they're carrying people, and they need to have first priority, because if something happens to a plane, a lot of people can get hurt or even die. And so in order to maintain that level of safety, that high level of safety, we have to keep airspace restrictive in certain areas, especially around big cities, where a lot of, or any sort of metropolitan area where a lot of people are going to make their bones, like FedEx or UPS, delivering in those high density areas because we're closer together. So it's just not going to be cost effective to deal with all those regulations and use drones at the same time to deliver stuff. Now, can something be innovated in the future? I mean, can they put, locks on the drones to make sure that they stay under X feet? Can they make sure that those locks stay on? Can they make sure that the batteries provide enough power to make sure those drones can do an 8-hour route? Those things are all things that can happen in the future, but as of right now, no.
Okay. So this is an interesting question that, Alex, I'm going to throw this back to you a little bit. Chris, you may have some thoughts on this as well. And this is kind of an interesting thing, especially Northwest Florida, Okaloosa County, where, even though people may not realize it, we have a significant amount of rural area that in locally. And so what are some of the challenges for delivering products into rural areas?
Well, as the gentleman to your left just stated, Saul, the distance between houses, the ease of access to get in, some places still have dirt roads. So I think that there are concepts. I know UPS has a concept where it would have a package car that has a clamshell on top of the vehicle. It would serve to charge the UAS and then fly it out to where it's at. I think probably in the 30-pound limit. I don't know specifically, but they can go ahead and do those things. I ultimately think that if someone is going to want to receive packages by that method, you're probably going to end up having the homeowner is going to have to establish GPS quality coordinates for delivery. You're probably going to have to get the terrain elevation You're probably going to have maybe some kind of container that would be approved by the carriers that they can receive a drop in from a unmanned vehicle. You're probably going to have to sign a waiver. So if they knock off something on your house or a tree branch or something happens, that you're not going to sue the drone company from, for damages. I mean, there is so much that that has yet to be developed with this type of delivery method. I think it's coming. It's just not today. I do know some islands, some really isolated places, blood products, for example, medication, those types of things are being delivered through drones. But again, those are small packages in really separated areas. So I don't know, Saul, if you know anything about those things.
So in my day job, I work for a trash company, and we service the rural area of North Okaloosa County. A lot of red dirt roads, a lot of washouts, stuff like that. To give you an idea, there's a small area to the north that we have had to pull something like 12, big trash trucks out of the dirt. And so we stopped servicing down the road, and we asked people to bring the trash carts to the right of way where it's paved. We lost, I think, something in the neighborhood of $15,000 in tow fees this year.
Okay.
And so if we're servicing, 20, 30 people on those roads for whatever it is, $28.50 a month, we'll never make that back.
Right.
Doesn't matter how many times we go to the door to pick up the trash. So I think that there's a lot of opportunity in those rural areas, especially because there's not as many airspace restrictions. And so there's a great opportunity, like Alex said, for something with the clamshell on there to pop off, get exact coordinates, and the driver can keep going, and that thing comes back, after the package is dropped. I mean, that's something I would love to see.
Yeah. I think it'd be cool.
Yeah.
I'd be okay with drones delivering to the house. So one of the things that, that especially we're starting to see supply chain issues, there's kind of some faults in the logistics of things moving around. And so as it relates to how much, quite honestly, stuff can be moved from place to place, DJ, I'm going to throw this question to you. Somebody put in a question asking whether or not trucks can double stack their containers.
Hey, everybody. Most likely not, maybe over some long hauls, but bridges become the problem, and overpasses, the height limitations will pretty much prevent that from happening. But in regards to the trucks over the long haul, somebody mentioned, I think it was Christopher Early, the last mile, or maybe that was Alex that mentioned that. But the concept of that last mile is a big part of the equation. They are very close, if not already in trials of the trains of 18-wheelers running on the major interstates, north, south, east, and west. But navigating through those through the city areas becomes the problem. So getting the goods and services in large quantities of an 18-wheeler with a string of trucks with a main driver in the front, and with the technology following, basically driving the following trucks, keeping the safe distance, linking up the braking systems and so forth, can move a significant amount of freight north, south, east, and west. And it's the solution lies in that last mile of how do we get those containers unloaded and to their distribution points.
Awesome. Thank you.
So there are some great solutions for the kids, I think, in that realm.
So we're going to shift gears a little bit, and I'm actually going to pose this next question to all of the panelists.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm going to, because this is really in my mind, this is one of those things of it's probably better to get everybody's feedback of kind of how everybody does it, because everybody does this a little differently. And so the question is, regarding the innovation project, where do you recommend students conduct research while in the brainstorming process? So kind of talk about, briefly, kind of what your mental process is that you go through for doing that research when you're in those early brainstorming phases. And anybody feel free to jump in. I'm not going to call on anybody. I think we'll probably be able to get it through. unless nobody jumps in, and then I'm gonna start calling on everybody.
I'll jump in. This is Alex. I think the advantage for us is that we have customers that just come up with ideas. They say, hey, why don't? And we're like, hadn't thought about that. I think sometimes it's just listening to complaints. Nobody wants to deal with complaints, but sometimes in a complaint, you can understand maybe there's a little nugget of something that's good that could be, could be looked at and see if there's a possible solution to that. So I think, again, this is just one thought, is just that maybe listen to your customers, listen to, some of the different problems that arise in different settings, and maybe there's some opportunity there to maybe reduce the impact or solve the dilemma.
And just speaking as a teacher, the whole brainstorming, rules of brainstorming process is difficult for humans. You want to latch onto something and either poo-poo it or figure it out, and that really just breaks down the whole process. Your goal at the brainstorming phase is all ideas are good ideas, and you just want to record them. And the more you get in the hopper, the better chance something or some combination of ideas will spark solution kind of discussions. So teaching and following that rule is hard for kids. It's almost impossible for adults, because we have too much of a body of knowledge already. We tend to jump straight to what we think would be a solution, and we're not entertaining the outside, crazy sort of ideas. And you really need to do that at that early phase. I think that holds for the kids as well.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. That's I try to explain the same thing to some of our students. This is unmanned operations. So you've taken the pilot or any use of trying to design the aircraft around the pilot being on the aircraft. So now the only thing you have to worry about is designing it for the mission, whatever that mission is, whatever the payload is. It's specific to that. And I mean, you imagine everything that is a manned aircraft, there is an unmanned version of that somewhere. and it's expanding, it's growing in a way that's, it's really hard to say, let's look back and do what we've already done. No, we are wide open. You can do anything you want to do in the design phase, and you really should stir up those ideas.
The only thing I'd add is it's always best to find the person that has the least to do with the problem you're having and talk to them.
Yeah.
Because
Perspective.
they have the totally unencumbered perspective of somebody that doesn't have to worry about your problem and hasn't dug into it too deeply. It's amazing.
Great advice, Chris. Great advice.
Mhm. Yep.
Just talking to somebody like, well, why didn't you think of that? And it's plain as day after they say it. That's how I solved actually most of my problems. So,
Ask a kid.
and then don't be afraid to collaborate.
Yes.
So, Michael, I'm going to throw this next question at you. This one's actually one that came in live on the chat while we're in here. So has there been any, for example, has the city of Fort Walton Beach looked at any potentials for, say, traffic being an issue? Have we looked at how traffic impacts deliveries and the logistics chain? And has there been any thought on ways that you could make physical changes to, roads, maybe put in a special lane that's specifically designed for deliveries, logistics, supply, those kinds of things?
I will say traffic is probably the number one issue in this area of Okaloosa County. We are working on ideas and plans to try to alleviate traffic all the time. Unfortunately, because we're a built out urban area, it's difficult to create roadways with additional lanes, specific lanes, you name it. But we are working on projects. Highway 98 is being, widened in some areas in the area. which will help on the east-west side of the southern part of Okaloosa County. We're looking at, they're going to build a new Brooks Bridge soon, which will help alleviate traffic, which those of you who live in the area know that during the spring and summer, traveling Highway 98 in South Okaloosa County is almost a gridlock. And, Interstate 10, they're doing new interchanges up near the Crestview area. So there are things in the works, and we're always looking for solutions. And some of the other things that the city's doing, we're very slow when it comes to technology on the government side. And we are trying to implement things like micro mobility vehicles or scooters, you can say, to try to get cars off the road to help with traffic. And we've created golf cart friendly areas. We have the little bird scooters rolling around some areas of the city. And we're trying to do little things like that may help with traffic, but the overall big picture, with us being a built out area, it's going to be very difficult to do dedicated lanes and ideas like that.
Awesome. Thank you. So the next question, I'm going to pose this one to two folks. Ken, you work in an education environment, right? Teaching UASs to students. And so the next question is, working in a collaborative setting poses problems. How do you handle miscommunications with your team? So I guess we could think of team as, the people that you work with, as well as students that are going through some of the courses. And as you're trying to make sure that they understand how and why to fly, or why you teach things a certain way, how do you deal with miscommunication when something doesn't quite get translated the way that it should down the line?
Oh, that happens often. and that's quite all right, because not everybody will understand the same thing on the same level. And that's quite all right, because sometimes it does involve us looking at the same issue from multiple perspectives, because sometimes we're not thinking about that. So I talk to the students, I let them know, okay, well, first and foremost, we're all here to be safe, right? Because that's what we're here to do. We want to fly, we want to get the job done, we want to get it done effectively and efficiently. Well, taking those concepts and then going to the problem, like, okay, is it in the engineering of the equipment? Is it in the software? Is it in the data link? Or maybe it's a connection issue. We want to try to dissect the problem and take it piece by piece. Sometimes it's easier to take on in smaller chunks, rather than looking at it all in like as one big complex system. So that's what I like to say to them is, look, we want to try to explain what this concept is. If you don't understand it this way, that's fine. Let's pivot. Let's give another perspective on this same idea and see if we can get that idea through.
Awesome. Okay, so the next question, I'm going to go back and pose it to all of the panelists because it is asked as experts. So we're all considering all the panelists experts. Congratulations, everybody. So now you have to answer as if you're an expert. No, I'm just kidding.
You're using that term quite loosely, I see.
That's right. So as experts, and so what we're looking for here is thoughts, ideas, and opinions on the current cargo logistics problems that are facing the United States and other countries, right? And I think we're thinking about it beyond just any necessarily political perspectives on it, but long before there were any fingers pointing or any of those kinds of things, there are logistics issues. There are long haul, you have to move things by ship or train or plane, or and it's trying to find the balance between what the best way is to get the largest amount of of material moved from point A to point B. And that's been an issue for a while, especially as more people buying more things. And so we have to get more stuff moved around the country and around the world. So what are some of your thoughts and ideas on ways that we can really help that logistics chain, not just in the United States, but around the world?
Tell you what, if we could answer that question, we'd all be incredibly rich. I think right now, what we're seeing, we try to stay away from politics, but I think a big part of what's happening in China is because of political decisions regarding the use of coal versus nuclear versus whatever other kind of fuel that they want, and it's caused a shortage. And the development of the different products is not coming out as fast as it would like. So ships are stacked over there trying to get loaded, but the products aren't ready, or the docks are not able to load the ships because of energy issues. There's other issues. I'm just trying, in the interest of time. Additionally, large corporations like Amazon have the ability, they have either they have purchased or they have leased ships. And you can, as a business, you can get space on their ship to bring goods from the Far East back to the United States. So there's a number of things. That's just one example of one industry, one business that's large enough to be able to do that. The next thing is we are suffering with a number of people that cannot pass a drug test and cannot pass a CDL test. So we are short. Probably, I think this past weekend, the Wall Street Journal said 800,000 truck drivers. So something old is getting dusted off again, and it's called a train. So you're starting to see where trains are starting to come back with the ability to haul massive amounts of cargo very efficiently. And so what's old is being rediscovered as maybe new. So driverless vehicles, Tesla is trying out unmanned trucks that would have maybe magnetic strips in the highway surface, so that there may be a lane or maybe a section of a roadway that is geared towards unmanned long haul trucks that would constantly be going and not have to worry about drivers taking a break. The same concept, I think, Saul, you mentioned, not designing a UAV around a person. But there's quite a number of things that industry is really aggressively going after, because that is the economic vitality of our country. If we can't get goods in the consumer's hands and they're not willing or able to get the money into the business's hands, you really start to have some issues. So that's a high interest item for a lot of folks.
And I'll chime,
Go ahead.
I'll chime in on that. As far as being in Metro Atlanta, they have the specialized lanes and everything, but the problem with that, the current problem with that is human nature. People are not polite and people ignore the rules. So they having a lane for unmanned vehicles where you're mixing unmanned vehicles on the highway with humans does not work. So I think there's a great place for the students to think of innovative solutions to how can we keep the humans out of those lanes, because right now they violate the lanes right and left. They cross the double lines instead of the dash lines to get in the HOV lanes or into the fast pass lanes. So and then when the traffic problem was mentioned earlier too, and that's a huge issue here in Metro Atlanta, the congestion has just gotten out of control. And at least once a week, a major artery, a major thoroughfare, 5 lanes is blocked, like stopped dead still. And the backup can last literally 8-9 hours at a time. Literally blocking every form of traffic moving through that area, which then immediately causes gridlock on the side streets. So lots of areas for creative solutions from the kids as to how we can mix unmanned and humans in the same thoroughfares. Lots of opportunity there, I think.
I would say that we're in a period in time of creative destruction, right? We're seeing these logistic shortfalls from everything from the boats coming from the Far East to not being able to get enough CDL. I mean, for our trash company, we need to have CDL drivers. We can't find them. And so we, as people in business more generally, right, as an economy, we have two options. We can just pack up and go home, or we can creatively destroy the process with which got us here, right? So boats don't work anymore. What's the next solution? Manned vehicles aren't working. What's the next solution? And that means that there's huge opportunity for these kids to A, change the world, but B, make a lot of money. Like Alex was saying earlier, if we had the problems to this, we'd be rich. So, and I think that he's not wrong in that assessment. And I think that is this is a huge problem for us. If we don't figure it out, there are going to be serious consequences for the way we live life. And so the people that can solve those problems are going to be rewarded comfortably for that.
Thanks, sir.
Very important statement there. I've always tell the kids and have for years, industry does not need fill in the blank people. They need problem solvers. If you're a problem solver, you'll never be unemployed. Good times or bad times, never be unemployed.
Dang it. Okay, we're going to move on to the next question. Ken, I'm going to throw this one to you. This one is one of the ones that came in live on the chat. Do you think it's possible for a drone to eventually be big enough to carry a cargo crate? We've kind of talked back and forth about there's going to obviously be future innovation in drones. What are your thoughts about whether or not we're actually going to see some that are large enough to carry a cargo container?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I definitely think we're going to see drones large enough to carry cargo containers at some point. And if even if it doesn't seem very practical, somebody's going to do it. Somebody's going to figure it out. They're going to put the right motors and the right airframe, and they're going to figure out how to move these cargo containers, these Connex boxes. You know, you got different sizes, 10 foot, 15, 20 foot. And as you can deliver these boxes, even if it's a short distance, that's still great progress for a lot of the shipping companies that just need to move. You know, these products are going this way, so let's move everything this direction. They're trying to sort things out, and even in the shipyards, they move things around with. I know they're starting to use more autonomous trucks there on the ground to move boxes around. So yeah, I absolutely think it will be something we will see. And it will probably start off small, but it'll get there.
I have to agree with Ken on that, is that last mile part of the solution is big. Somebody mentioned earlier, the trains are coming back into vogue, old becoming new again. We had talked about trains of 18 wheelers on the north, south, east, west major interstates, but it's that last mile that's the solution. So smaller containers that are likely going to be the first ones that'll be able to be moved by drone, getting over that hurdle to get them where they are needed or can be distributed is a big part of the solution. And like I think Alex said earlier, that those problem solvers are going to be well compensated.
Thank you very much. So let's see. I'm going to throw one back in here. So Alex, I'm actually going to throw this one to you because I think this is probably going to hit you right square on your desk. Can you talk about your experience with forecasting, logistics metrics, and how you manage that, or kind of what your insight is potentially for how UPS does that as well?
Well, for us in the store, as we get ready for peak season, is what we call a holiday rush. UPS collects data from what is being shipped, trends. They speak with their industry partners. They get indications from industry partners of what they're seeing for the coming seasons, and they provide that to us. So as a franchisee, I don't have to start doing market research. The UPS Corporation sends that out to us, and then we prepare our stores. We staff them appropriately to handle what we expect to see coming through the door. This year is a little different. I mean, it's the whole reason why we talking on this panel. We don't know exactly what goods are going to be on the store shelves for consumers to buy and send to their loved ones, their friends. So this season, just like the last year with COVID and this year, the continuation of that, this is a curveball that we just don't know exactly, how big or how small the season might be. So you have to prepare for the worst and hope for the best kind of mentality on this one. So I don't know if that answers your question, but we get a lot of data from the UPS corporation, and that they speak with their vendors, their customers, and they provide that to us to help us in the local market.
I think that definitely answers the question. So Chris, I'm going to throw this next question at you, and I'm actually going to go away from the drone world, and I'm going to go into the sanitation world. As it relates to one of the things that the kids are having to do is to find innovative ways to come up with, logistics solutions. So can you give us some insight into any, kind of innovation that you see or have seen in that, in that waste world, right? So we see garbage trucks, we see different, and if you pay attention, you've seen that they've changed over the years, but have you seen, or do you see on the horizon any real innovation kind of in that space coming?
I think the interesting thing with garbage trucks is they've gotten more and more automated. So you have the robotic arm on most of them. Well, those robotic arms are starting to leave behind trash a little bit. So, you open it, the can flips, and that way you don't have to have somebody else up there picking it up and doing that, but it leaves a little bit of trash behind. So what we do at Adams is we have somebody physically on the back so we don't miss any trash. People are starting to feel that human touch and seeing it as important because they're seeing the automatic, not perfect, right? And so they're mad about it not being perfect. So there's a human touch. So there's sort of a synergy, right? When we innovate between, automating everything to make sure that we can hit our bottom lines, which is very important, otherwise you're not business, right? And making sure that the customer feels valued, right? And so I think that the next push in trash truck technology is going to make it so that that second person on the back of the truck, if there is one, has an easier time and can do things as quickly as possible while still having a body on the back there. People want to see that human touch. They want to see that guy run and get that piece of trash that fell out. It matters to them from my side, from the marketing perspective. People see that and they say, oh, I matter. And then they want to go with that business, right? So innovation isn't just about making things more efficient or making them do more things in less time. It's also about marrying that with human nature. And so as we move forward, at least in the trash industry, I think that we're going to start seeing a switch from that because that's how we're getting most of our customers is people are saying, oh, they care about me. I'm going to go with them. So
That's a huge. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt there, but that's a huge concept, Chris. That's definitely innovation at work. I heard someone say one time that humans can forgive human mistakes, but humans do not forgive machine mistakes. So I think that's an excellent example and probably a neat twist for some of these kids as they're searching for their innovation solution is what is the human quotient to that solution? And is it a combination of technology and the human factor to make a solution realistic and game changing?
Us creative types got to stay in business somehow, man.
That's good. That's good. I'm impressed.
So with that, I'm gonna ask the same question to you, Alex, and then we're gonna move on to what's probably going to be our last question because it's probably going to have some longer answers. But Alex, what are some of the things that you've seen in the package delivery, in the item delivery? I think package delivery is probably limiting it too much in that logistics, chain, that delivery piece. That you've seen over the years, and what kind of things do you foresee in the future?
We kind of answered this partially when we started. For us in the stores, we have seen where UPS has what's called access point to cut down on costs to prevent a driver from normally in the olden days, the driver would make up to 3 attempts to deliver a package. Now drivers will make 1 attempt. And if the individual is not at home, then the package is brought the next business day over to our store, and the customer is notified, and they can come in and pick up the item. I think you're starting to see the number of businesses that are incorporating package lockers, the package containers, where, you know, we want, it's just like the hub, Grubhub and all these, for some reason, I'm getting a brain cramp on the different Uber
DoorDash and all of those, right?
Yeah, exactly. We wanted, it's the Burger King mentality. We want it our way. So people, when they order something, they want it immediately. They don't want to hear that I wasn't home, or I didn't hear the doorbell, or whatever the case may be. So businesses want to get that package to the consumer as quickly as possible. I think Amazon leads the way in that type of innovation. And then those containers allow a shipping company to deliver to a location. It's a one shot, get it there, close the door, it's done. And the consumer is notified, and then it's their responsibility to go pick it up. After so many days, if it's not there, it gets returned. But I just see where businesses are trying to meet the consumer's demands to have near instant gratification with getting packages to them as quickly as possible. And there's some other things I can go into, but I think that probably answers your question.
Yep, absolutely.
I know in the Metro Atlanta, we're seeing a lot of those lockers pop up, especially in the multifamily or apartment complexes, if you will. A lot of new ones, a lot of existing ones are putting these lockers adjacent to the mail room or the mail hut, if you will, of a complex, because there's so many people in such a small geographic area, and finding them and getting it to their doorstep is really difficult, where they're just skipping that step altogether and it goes to the locker.
Well, it's not just like a post office mailbox locker kind of thing. They're non-traditional stores. I mean, you might go into a Walgreens, you go into a Walmart, you go in anywhere. These companies work agreements to locate these containers. And when they make those deliveries, and guess what? Customer goes in, they're picking up bread and milk and some produce, and they get their package from the locker on the way out. So yeah, it's a little bit of change in dynamics from what we used to.
Yeah, and I've seen personally experienced that scenario where a seemingly unrelated location has made that contract to accept Amazon packages or UPS packages or whatever, and the employees are the ones that are negatively impacted, and many times their disgruntled attitude, bleeds over. Which I don't know if that could be a backfire from a marketing standpoint on the larger company, not the little store, the CVS pharmacy that's agreed to receive these packages.
I could talk to you offline about
I'm sure.
Thanks for taking that offline. I appreciate that. Thanks for that.
Yeah, but I mean, but those are the human factor solutions that I think these kids can. I love what Chris said earlier about the that little last step of bringing that human back into the thing. That I think that's part of this answer. You've got a CVS employee that's not trained or has no financial interest in the deal that the owner of the store or the owner of the franchise has agreed to receive these packages. They just have to deal with the chaos. And maybe there's some solutions in there. Yeah.
Well, okay, all right. You kind of baited me into this one. I think the issue is for stores is they have to show that it's part of your job. Because a lot of people think their job description is a la carte. You pick the job items that you want, and you ignore the ones you don't want. And for us, we deal with tons of Amazon stuff, and I'm literally speaking, I mean, every day we probably ship off over 200 pounds of consolidated Amazon products from just the Fort Walton store. Same for Crestview. It is incredible how much additional work goes into doing that. And you're getting a little bit of pushback on that one.
I agree with you about it being a management training issue for sure.
All right, so we've got about 5 minutes left, so I'm going to pose the last question for the panel. And we touched on it a little bit, and that's kind of what got this question to pop into my head. So we've got, your pictures up on the screen. And we've got your bios, and the bios have been sent out, and, franchisee, UPS store, industrial designer, engineer, and DJ, we know you're an educator, and Chris, we know you're a drone pilot, and you work for a solid waste company, right? Michael Beatty's the city manager. He's unfortunately had to step away, but Ken, lead drone instructor. And so with all of those comes an expectation of your job, right? You own, manage UPS stores, you run, manage classrooms, you market for a waste company, and you do some drone piloting work, and you teach UAS courses. But I think it gets lost sometimes, and I think it would benefit the kids to understand if you could individually, and Ken, we'll start with you, and then I'll kind of, as we get through there, I'll kind of go through the panelists to make sure that everybody gets an opportunity. But talk briefly about how much of your day is spent problem solving versus how much of your day is spent doing, quote, your job.
Good question. I would say to look at the problem solving versus just doing my job. There's I'd say maybe 50-50, where half of my job, sure, there's a little bit of routine to it. There's a little bit of procedure, but there's another good portion of my job where I am problem solving, because we are in an industry where it's still pretty new. The Part 107 just coming out in 2016. We're still on the front side of this. There's still a lot of things to figure out. So yeah, we still have a good deal of problem solving. It's something that we do every day, and it certainly is great when you have a team you can work with to work through these issues.
DJ, how about you?
We may have lost him audio wise, at least.
All right.
So.
Oh, sorry. I was muted.
Problem
That
solving.
was probably a fantastic answer too.
Yeah.
So tell us, how much of your day is spent problem solving versus how much of your day is spent doing what people perceive as your job?
A large part of my day is I'd say 70% of it is problem solving in the standpoint of training or teaching the other teachers. We have such a shortage of teachers in the technology area, especially in engineering education, that we have teachers that have moved over from a math class, they've moved over from a science class, and they're trying to teach engineering without any previous experience in that area. We have phenomenal labs. I'm fortunate to be in a large school system that has the financial means to set up amazing labs with 3D printers and lasers and CNC machines and plasma cutters and all kinds of technology. And I went last week to a teacher's lab, which I had to get coverage from my class and, make sure my kids had what they needed to do. And I spent an afternoon in this teacher's lab, and, every machine we went to, she's like, what is this? Brilliant lady, gung ho, excited about this, but she didn't even know what the equipment was, much less how to use it. So I spend a large portion of my day and night answering questions and trying to help these teachers be more successful in their classroom, over and above my normal job description.
So I'm looking at my to-do list, and I would say it's probably, well, it depends on how you define problem solving, right? So I think I would turn it on its head and say, what do I use critical thinking for? Because I think that's what problem solving is. I would say most everything that I do involves some form of critical thinking. I definitely know my boss doesn't want a box filler. I mean, you gotta be able to solve problems and present solutions, right? It's not so much the solving the problem as it is, or bringing it to your boss and saying, here's the problem. It's like, here's the problem, and here's what we're gonna do about it.
Gotcha.
I think that if you do that, and you just stick to it and believe in yourself, you can do pretty much anything you want. They'll believe you for long enough for you to figure it out anyway, so.
Good rule, never deliver a problem without at least a proposed
Yeah.
solution.
Okay, Alex, we're gonna end it with you, sir. What do you think, what do you think that mix is for you?
I think my mix, honestly, in this environment, is managing the human capital. You know, one of the reasons why I bought a franchise was because it's a proven model of success. And so I you know, there's a little bit of input that you get into something like that. I don't want to gloss over that, but I think the biggest thing is you can have the absolute best business, you can have the best prices, you can have the best products, but if you have, for example, as David mentioned, you go into a store and somebody is not really feeling it today when the customer is interacting with them, that can destroy you. So the biggest thing for us is to make sure we have the right people, we make sure we get them trained, that they're prepared. And quite honestly, if a person doesn't want to be with us, then to be decisive, make sure that you've covered your bases, you've done everything you can to find out if there is an issue and resolve it to the best of your ability. But sometimes you have to understand that that is where your business is that interaction with the customer, and you have to take care of those things. So yeah, there's some problem solving, but there's also just good old fashioned business practice.
Thank you so much, Alex. So we knew it was going to happen. We knew that hour was going to fly by. But what we want to do is make sure that we assure you guys that we are capturing your questions. So if they did not get answered, we've got them. We're going to put a list together. And I feel pretty certain that all of our amazing panelists today will be more than happy to answer those questions for you offline, and then we can get the answers back to you. I did also want to say that our hope, and maybe we can do another one of these down the road, but was that we could have, you know, the teams turn on camera and share innovation project ideas, because I know sharing is a big part of what you guys are doing. And you have kind of given a small insight into some of your project solutions through your questions, which is good, but we knew that there wasn't going to be enough time for everybody to come on camera and sort of do their quick elevator pitch of what their project was. So I think we did a good job of kind of capturing what you're working on. If you want, continue to send us questions and we'll continue to compile them and share them with the panelists. We like to do this every season so that we can help assist teams with research. It's good to have varied types of research that you're doing for your projects, whether it's the internet, whether it's going to the library and doing some research there. That's crazy.
Cool.
That's crazy talk. But also for sure, things like this is a good way to get a new perspective and an expert perspective on some of the problems that you're trying to solve. So we appreciate the teams and the coaches' time today. We for sure appreciate our panelists very much. Yeah, I wish that we had sound for everybody so we could give an amazing round of applause for them. So thank you very much. We can still do it. We might not be able to hear it, but yes, we want to thank them so very much. Thank you to Mr. Mitchell for moderating today. Thank you.
Thanks in the chat.
So, well, that's great. Yes, because we love doing stuff like this. We would like to do more. We're thankful to all of you for joining us. And again, please know that we've captured questions and we're going to get answers to you if they didn't get answered today. And thank you to our awesome STEM team. Lauren for going through the chat there and answering questions. So thank you all so much for joining us. Best of luck on and continued success in your research for your innovation projects. We cannot wait to see the solutions that you come up with this season. So thank you guys so much and have a great evening. We will get the recording out, shared with our participants as well. So if anybody wants to go back and watch that, we'll make sure we get it to you. So
Jen,
thank you so much.
Jen, I love the idea of the kids doing an elevator speech before they get to the end of the timeline there, somewhere about midway, that they could pitch what their idea was and get critical feedback from us would be a
Yes.
fun exercise.
Yes, absolutely. And so perhaps because the teams we're kind of in the beginning of the season, somewhat in the beginnings. So for a lot of teams, they're still trying to pin down what their solution is. So perhaps we could revisit this and come back with the panel at a later date where the teams can just pitch their idea for just solid feedback on the feasibility of their ideas. I think that would be a great idea.
I would love to participate in that. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Awesome.
You want
Well,
signed up?
it sounds like stay tuned. And so everybody be on the lookout for potential invitations for that event. So thank you so much again. Y'all have a great evening.
Thanks,
Talk to you
everybody.
later.
Thank you guys.
All right, enjoyed it.
Thanks,
Take
everybody.
care.
Appreciate it.
If you want to talk shop.
Yeah, I'd give you a business card, but coded seems to make me a little slow.